Welcome to A Belly Full podcast. I'm Tatiana Patton, and I'm the founder of Soul Food Movement, a faith-based apparel brand that is designed to create conversation centered in Christianity and to ultimately encourage people to pursue a real relationship with Jesus Christ. And this podcast is a platform to do just that. Some of the best conversation is found in the kitchen or over a plate of delicious food. So join us as we discuss life, lessons, relationships, and everything in between on this journey as a believer and follower of Jesus Christ. So come on in and get you a belly full. Welcome back to the last episode of A Belly Full podcast, or at least the last episode of season 1. So we've made it, guys. We are finally here. It may not seem long for you, but it's been it's been a little bit long for us. So I'm a little bit relieved for this to be the last episode. In this episode, we will be cooking one of my favorite dishes, which is fettuccine Alfredo, and it is I'm gonna say based off of, it's almost like a copycat recipe of Carrabas's pasta wheezy or fettuccine wheezy. But I obviously have a guest, and the guest for our last episode in season 1 is the one and only Anastarcia Palacious. Welcome, Star.
Hi, everybody.
So I'm also very nervous, I would say, to be, or for you to be the guest, because I know that you're basically like a media personality, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking.
Well, don't be nervous. You got this. You've been doing a whole podcast, and you've been directing and producing since forever, so it's basically the same thing. You got this.
Basically. Thank you, Star. So I follow you on Facebook, obviously, and based off of your posts, a lot of posts that you write or that I see, I noticed that I feel like you write very well. And so that's what had led me to believe that you are a communications major, because I was like, she had to have been a communications major because of the fact that I guess just everything just seems well written. Like it speaks to me.
So some of that is just God's gifting. Some of it is I did do an AA in mass comm many years ago, but a lot of it is that I recently, in the last 4 or 5 years, really started to invest in my self-development. I've always been a public speaker, and I wanted to be a motivational and transformational speaker. I wanted to speak for a living and to get paid for my craft and for the impact that I hope I have on people's lives when I share. And so I invested in self-development courses. And one of them was with this amazing teacher called Lisa Nichols. And she is an international speaker, motivational speaker. And she's got certain techniques of speaking that she teaches. And so actually, I think one of the reasons that my posts have gotten even better in the last 4 years is because I'm just using some techniques, right? And so it's almost like if you know the science of anything, like you using the science of cooking, then you can do anything. So yeah, now I get to teach other people those techniques that I've learned and kind of look at my own career of speaking and been like, what do I call this thing that I always do? And actually put names to it. So now I teach people the very same thing that attracted you to what I write, because it's just a technique.
Interesting. I still feel like it's it's definitely a gift.
No, it is a gift. I won't deny God's goodness, but I will say that it's a gift that can be taught and a gift that can be opened and received by someone else.
Yeah. What made you feel like you wanted to speak? Like that you wanted to do this as a career?
I think like the Bible is very clear, and so I always tell people I'm very faith based. So you're always gonna hear me bring up God because that's just me, and it's my truth. And the Bible is very clear in saying that our gifts will make room for us and bring us before great men. And so my thought process is that if God has given me this gift, then why wouldn't He allow me to use it to create a lifestyle where He can be praised and glorified, right? And where my family can be well taken care of, and where we get to help even more people because we are well taken care of. And so I had been in the communication space for a while as a marketing manager, then starting my own communications company, helping companies manage their social media, and then doing PR and telling fun stories about companies. But I wanted to transform more lives. I wanted to leave an impact in the rooms that I went into. And I wanted to do that without struggling, because I've been speaking for years. Like I started talking when I was 4. My mom, and I still haven't shut up, right? I'm talking right now. And so I've been doing like motivational talks always. Even in high school, I would do them for other high school students. And so I would spend a lot of my time, and even when I left my job, I'd said to God, if you would allow me the grace to leave my corporate job but still have enough funds to function, I will continue to give back my time to young people and to just encouraging them and motivating them. And that's good in theory, and it really is a beautiful thing to be able to do. And so I still do that now. I have a certain amount of free talks that I give each month, but like at the end of the day, I have bills, and I had a kid, and now I have 2 kids, and so it's like you can't do stuff for free because then how will you eat? And so I really just I'd been praying to Him to show me a way to use my gifts in a way that He promised me in His word that He would, to bring me before great men and to give me the increase that He promised in the parable of the talent. So, yeah.
Where would you, like I don't know you that well. I only know you based off of like, I guess, social media. So I'm just inquisitive onto like, I guess, just your background. And my question would be, how has your faith, like, how did your faith walk, or how did your relationship with God begin?
Yeah. So I think, CeCe Winans has this beautiful song, and it just says, she was just a child when she felt the Spirit leading, and she was drawn to things she couldn't understand, right? And it's just a beautiful song. So you guys can look up the lyrics. I can't remember the name of the title right now, but those are the actual lyrics and the way the song begins. And I think that's been the same for me. So I went to a Catholic primary school, and I was president of the Rotary Club in the 2nd grade, right? Like I grew up in a household that was filled with God and church, and we went to church every Sunday, and I think God just made me one of those people that's extra committed to anything that I do. So if I'm in it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it, 100%. And I just come in with this burst of energy. And so I just always prayed, and I always knew God, and I always, like, a prayer life has always just been a part of me since I was a very small child. But it's evolved, right? Because there's a level of God that you know as a kid, and then there is like real life that happens, and you have to continue on in that relationship. So my relationship with the Holy Spirit began when I was about 13 or 14. I'm an Anglican, and I went to something that we have in our church called Discovery, and it's like a retreat weekend. You're locked in. No phones. Phones were new at the time, but no phones, nothing, no technology, just you and the people there with you, and these amazing mentors and teachers. And it's just a great renewal weekend. And so that's where I was first introduced to the Holy Spirit and the idea that I really wanted my life to be dedicated to God. And so that happened at 13. And over the years, it's just grown. There are times and seasons of great connection, and times and seasons when you feel like you may be wandering in the wilderness and you need to draw back again. And at every level of my personal growth, there's a new level of spiritual growth, right? And so it began at 13, but it's a continuous and evolving process. And the Christian that I am today is not the Christian that I was 4 years ago. It's not the Christian that I was when I was 15, not when I was 12, not when I was 20. And so I just think life's different experiences has led me to draw nearer to God, and then shown me a different side of Him every step of the way.
Have you ever, in your journey, has it ever wavered at all, or no?
Nah, I've always been steadfast. I think what has happened is, in my worst moments, it's drawn me closer to God. Mm-hmm. So I remember after I had broken up with my like first very serious boyfriend, who was also a Christian, just the devastation and the pain associated with that loss and at the end of that relationship drove me deeper into God, to connecting with Him with new ways, right? Like, how could I just be so absorbed by God that this pain would go away? That was one thing that led me to Him. And then in the process of coming out of that relationship, I got involved with someone that was not suited for me, and it was really tumultuous and terrible and very emotionally draining and damaging. And in that process, I think that might have been one of the times when I was furthest away from God, because I knew I should not have been in this space, and yet here I was. And so that was a very hard season. But by the grace of God, and I only give Him credit for it, and I call my husband my angel, because I truly believe God sent him to save me from myself in that situation. And so, then I entered into this beautiful relationship with the man that I'm married to today. But over the course of our relationship, I remember in one year, my grandfather died in March, my best friend died in May, and my dad died in July. And then in between that time, I had 2 granduncles die. And so that period of loss was just another devastating thing for me. And I do remember the day my dad died, my mother-in-law, who was a priest, called me to pray. And I said, like, I don't want to pray. Like, I prayed, and my dad is dead. And I don't have time for that at this particular moment, because really God can't tell me nothing, like, right now. Because I asked you for one thing, that's my daddy to live, and you just let him die. So I'm just need to not talk to God at this particular moment. But it passed. It was just a day. And then after that, you realize, like, either you're going to go through the world without God and be incredibly angry, or you're going to turn that pain into a new way of discovering His ability and capacity to comfort you, as His word promises. So I won't say it's always easy. And when you see so many things going on in the world, your logical mind can really interfere with what you know to be true spiritually. But God has just shown up in my life so many times that I cannot
deny it.
I can't deny
deny Him.
That's just my truth.
Yeah, I would say my faith or my journey with God is when let me ask the question of, do you think that your foundation or your beginnings is what kind of created that relationship, or because of your foundation?
Which relationship?
With God.
My relationship with God?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, so I'm an Anglican, and my parents, we would go to church every Sunday, as far as I can remember. And my mom would sing us like Bible songs to go to sleep, and she would read us Bible scriptures. And so I've just always grown up in a house that I know to be faithful. We didn't do like family prayer or anything, but it still was a very, like, God is a part of our lives. And my dad, I would see him reading the Bible and stuff. So I just always knew God. And I think that, like I said, there are levels to spirituality. So there's one thing to know of God in theory. And I always use the example of, like, the woman who had the issue of blood, and she was in the crowd with all the people, and she reached out and touched Jesus. And then she had this miraculous encounter with Him. There was an entire crowd, but she's the only one that had the miraculous encounter, because you can know of God, but there's a difference between knowing of God, even walking around calling God's name, and then actually touching Him and experiencing Him, right? And so I give my parents every credit for the foundation, and I had an amazing church. I grew up in Christ the King in Grand Bahama, and we had an amazing Sunday school program. Like I said, I went to Mary Star of the Sea, which is a Catholic school, so religion is very indoctrinated in Catholic schools. But to move from religion to spirituality, that journey has been fully me turning to the foundation that I got from my parents and wanting to explore that more on my own.
Mine was more so like, I always say that my grandmother is the one who, like, instilled any kind of, I guess, real spirituality or faith in me. Or I guess she sowed the seed, I would say. Because I think I was actually baptized into the Catholic, I guess, religion. But in my household, I didn't grow up in the Bahamas. I grew up away until 12, and then we moved here. And then I moved back to the States, or I finished grade 11 and 12 in the States, but I lived here for grades 7 through 10, 7 through 10. And so that was kind of, I guess, the impact of with my grandmother. So when I was a teenager, I would always end up having to go to my grandmother's house. But she was just a very faith-driven woman. She was a Seventh-day Adventist. But in my household, I would say it was more like a free kind of spirit type of thing. Like they didn't really have there wasn't any set, like I think my stepmother, she had a form of spirituality, but we kind of like went through a bunch of different religions. So I knew from what my grandmother had taught me, about God and Jesus, but it wasn't really instilled in my growing up. But I always knew that God was there because of, I feel like, just having so many different experiences. It was like there were just too many times where I knew that was only God that saved me. But I can't say that I was not a dedicated or a devout Christian, because I did at one point just believe like it was just like, I don't know, it's just spirituality. That's what I do. Is like I feel like it was like no accountability really. It's just like with the wind.
There's a God, but there's no, And so what I tell people is like, I'm at the place in my spiritual journey where I do not judge others for theirs at all. Like God is so real to me, and the power of Jesus and his blood is so real to me in my life and in what I've seen, and the times that calling on his name has saved me from things even as strong as and powerful as death. Like that's real for me. So I don't even, like, if I don't debate anybody about it, I'm not gonna fight you on it. Like I just know what's real for me. And then I recognize that each of us is on our own path and on our own journey, and I'm continuously prayerful that my light may so shine before men that they may see my good works and give glory to him, right? And so if people ask me, well, Star, what is it? I can say, oh, Jesus, and then I can talk to you about it, right? But I also recognize that so many people have so many different experiences. Their lives have been so different. So I pray very often for people, but I'm not confrontational at all about religion. I just don't get into arguments over it. Like Proverbs is so clear that we ought not argue with a fool, right? And it's not to call people that don't believe what we believe fools. It's just to say that there are so many things that cause us to hold our belief so strongly that I would hate to get into a confrontation with someone and then the love of God can't be seen anyway. So I understand the concept of spirituality. I know why so many people choose to view it through that lens. It's so much more inclusive and less divisive, and so I get it. I just know it's true for me, and I just live my life in accordance with my truth. And then with the truth of Christ, which is how do you love your neighbor as yourself, regardless of what they believe or what they think, right? Because God is love. And so I get that. But I see that today you are calling yourself a Christian and doing your thing.
I would say that I struggled. I mean, I had a lot of struggles, I would say. I feel like I was very, I want to say just very emotional, but that's how I would handle things. Like, because I would say now that because I didn't really have a strong foundation or even really an understanding, that when things would happen, it was just like completely devastating. So it was almost like manic, like, high highs, low lows, high highs, low lows. And then when I moved back home, there were some people, or a friend of mine, they had a really like horrible tragedy, and I was devastated for them. And the way they handled it was like really, I guess, like it was just really inspiring to me, I would say. Because I was like, wow, how can you go through this and still be like, okay? Because if it was me, I would have been like shattered. And I understood that it was their faith in God that did that. And that's kind of what drove me to be like, I'm interested in this, and I need this. because the way I'm going is not working. So I need to know what it is that you got. Like what and so that's kind of where that was more so like 2015ish. And from then on, or I got rebaptized in 2015. And from then on, it's just been a journey. And so where I feel like I'm at now is just about really pursuing a real relationship with God, and not just like what I've seen. Like I have what I've seen in other people. I've had what I've seen in the churches that I've been to. But I still felt like something was like lacking. Like, and I feel like maybe the way that I attain this relationship with God is not in the way that, like, it doesn't have to be in the same way that I've seen other people have a relationship with God. Like it could be my own thing. And so that's where I'm at now. But I would say that for me it's definitely been a journey, and especially I guess just going through the things that you go through in life, man.
Yeah,
a lot of
and
it
that's the thing.
A lot of it now is like, because I have a son, I want to know that, I want to make sure that he has a firm foundation, like more than anything. And so I feel like the best thing is to lead by example. And so that's kind of why I want to make sure that my walk is right, or not, let me say right, that my walk is authentic, so that as well it will be an example for him, and he won't be like, lost in the wind, or like, I grew up knowing this, but yeah, I just want to be an authentic example. I want to lead him towards God and not away from God. I know that people have their own struggles, like you can only do so much, but I just want to give him the best foundation that I can, as well as praying for him. But I do believe that leading by example is the best way to lead. And then also finding, I think asking people, or in that way it would be like doing research to see what has worked for them in their walk, because with him, I want him to genuinely have a relationship with God as well, and to like want to seek him, want to know who he is on his own, and not because he's being told to. And so it's kind of like interesting, I guess, to me to try to figure out how to introduce that to him.
Yeah. So I think as a parent, we all want the best for our kids, and some things our kids are not gonna want to do, but we realize later that it's valuable. So one of my greatest battles that I'm fighting right now is how much I miss my dad, because he died when I was 20 or 21, and so he's never seen me married or with kids. But he and I have the same personality. My daughter and I have the exact same personality. And it's like, I wish he was here just so he could get the jokes from me when I tell him, like, the things that she does that are things that I used to do. And then we could just laugh at, like, at the three of us being the same person, right? And then I miss him because there are questions I have, like, well, how did you handle me when I did that? Because, like, I'm frustrated. Now, he didn't have the most patience either, so I don't know how he would respond now, but there are just things that I'm missing from that link. So I just say that to say that sometimes as children, we can't appreciate the things that our parents instill in us until it's time for them to come to fruition, right? It's like you're planting a seed and it doesn't spring forward until the right season. And so you have to instill things in your kids, not necessarily because they want to or because they understand it now, but there's going to come a point when there's like a reckoning, when this thing that you planted in them suddenly comes to fruition and they recognize, oh, this is what my mom was saying and this is why this is important. And so my husband and I were just having this conversation with our daughter on Sunday, because she was asking us, well, do we have to go to church every Sunday? And do I have to do this for the rest of my life? My daughter's 4, but that's the way she speaks. So my husband was like, well, while you're in this house, we're going to go to church most Sundays. As long as we can, we're going to go. And no, when you get older, you get to choose. Now, Mommy and I would hope that you would remember the values we've taught you and that what we've taught you works for you. But really, you're going to be your own adult. You're going to get to make those decisions yourself. And so I think that that's just important, right? So I baptized my son in our faith, and I baptized my daughter. I recognize that they may not choose this life. And that would be sad for me because of what I believe, but everybody's got to come into account to God for themselves. In the meantime, though, while you're in this household, because it's what we do, you're going to pray before you eat. You're going to pray before you go to bed. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to declare good things over your life. You're going to thank God for the day. You're always going to have a spirit of gratitude because you're so blessed. And, you know, those are just the core things. Much like my mom did with me, I sing them Bible songs. We read a bunch of different stories, but sometimes we read Bible stories. And I explain what's happening to them in those stories as best I can, given their level of knowledge. And I'm disappointed right now because we're not in a church that offers a Sunday school. COVID has been a wreck. But I'm hopeful that, you know, before she's 6 or 7, she will get that core learning and understanding from Sunday school. Because, you know, what happens between 0 and 7 is really what navigates the rest of your life for the most part. And so we want her to have that foundation. And then, of course, she'll become an adult and she gets to choose. Do I believe this? Do I not? Do I want to stick with this system of tradition and rituals, or do I not? And that's up to her. But I can say to God, if he ever asks me, I did all I could to teach what is my truth to my child.
Yeah. That's the best that you can do. It's just a life, you know, don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Say that again?
No, I totally understand that. Like, my biggest stresses and worries right now come from my kids. Like, are people being nice to them? So my daughter is in school. Your son is not old enough for school just yet. But my daughter is 4. She's in her second year of school, nursery pre-reception, which is like K4. Okay. But, you know, when people tell her things, or she feels bad, or she's unhappy because somebody said something mean to her, like, I be wanting to fight these kids, bro. Like, I understand, like, because this is my baby that I carried for 9 months that I almost died for. So, like, what you ain't gonna do is, like, disrespect my child, right? Like, and so I understand, like, we are so protective of them because we only want what's best for them. You've carried this life for 9 months, and you have given so much of your body, so much of your time, so much of what life used to be to these little people that you just want every good thing for them and nothing to hurt them, nothing to harm them. But, you know, Tatiana, that's just not reality. And I think we have to think about it the way God thinks about us, that we get to choose, and that he wishes the best for us, and he hopes the best for us, but that life can happen. And so how do we combat the things that life throws at us as they come, right? So yeah, girl, trust me when I say I understand. So just lots of prayer.
Yeah. That's what it's got to be. That's all you can really do.
I mean, looking good.
That makes the most difference. Thank you. So question. How is it being a mom of 2?
You really want to know?
I do, because I don't know how I bouncing, like, my son is, like I said, 1.5 years, and, you know, I was the only child, so I don't want that for my child. But the time period, you know, you don't want the time gap to be that big per se, but then I still don't know if I'm ready.
Yeah, no, I think you got to go through it with lots of prayer and consideration. And so I have difficult pregnancies. I had them in the past. I get very sick throughout my pregnancies, and in this last season with my son, giving birth to him and the journey with him, I was so sick that I had to stop working. And so I knew after having my daughter, and at first I didn't know. After I had my daughter, I had severe complications. And that was where I could say to you that the power of calling on Jesus' name really saved my life. So I had severe complications. I didn't know if I wanted to have a child again because I was so scared of my delivery that I was like, listen, it's not worth it. I want to be alive for this child that I've had. I want to be alive to continue life with my husband. I'm not going to have another baby. And then I had to start to question myself and ask, am I speaking from a place of faith or fear? And I recognized that in my truest heart, I wanted another child, but I was living in the fear of what could be. And I had to give that fear over to God. And so I made peace with the fact that all would work well with my son, and I declared it over us, and I spoke life over us every day. And we had a seamless delivery process. But the process of being pregnant was exhausting and awful, and I was sicker than I'd even been with my daughter. And so it was very rough. But we had decided that we wanted our kids close together because I knew I wanted to move on with my life. Like I got big dreams, right? And I'm a dreamer. I know that there's so many things that I want to achieve. And whether or not they come to fruition, will be up to God and the work that I do put in. But I couldn't see myself going through the period again. Like, I'm not going to get this girl to be 10 or 11, and then I go back to just being sick for a year and having a whole, like, it was a no for me. So I knew that within that span of, like, 3 years, I wanted to have them because I wanted to move on, right? So now I've got my two. I'm like, I'm done. So unless God is doing some immaculate conception stuff, sis is finished. So for me, that was like, we already had the bassinet and we had a crib and like it was in recalls. Like there were so many like simple facts. We got a stroller. We don't have to get another one. So because all these things are already in place, let's just do this. She talking. She going to the party sometimes. Like we could make this work. So that was enough for us to make the decision. But I think it really comes down to what works for you and what works for your life and what are your goals and how are you planning, right? I personally have the view that while kids are a blessing, that we want to make sure that we can give them the best quality of life that we can. And so what do our plans look like? What do we hope to achieve? Because I think decency and order is always good, right? And so I don't have any advice to people as to when they should do it. But I just say, pray about it and make sure that you're being honest with yourself, that you're being honest with your partner about what you can handle. It is hard, Tatiana. That's the question, the answer to your question. It is exhausting. There are many days when I just want to cry because it's very hard. And I actually have help, right? This is something else I tell people. Like, please look at me and say, oh my God, she's a super mom. She's doing everything. No, let's rewind that and clear that up right now. Sis has got help, okay? I have amazing grandparents that come in on the weekend and they stay with us and they help with the kids. Whenever my mom is in town, like my children sleep in her room, like she wakes up with them and cooks them breakfast. Like we have help. Like let's make that very clear. And even with help, it is exhausting. And I am always tired. And so I also recognize that it's just for a season. And so I'm fine with going through the rough part to get to what I call the good part. Like when they're older and we get to hang out and have all this fun. Like I'm looking forward to those days. And in the meantime, I just get to enjoy their smart mouths and their cute faces and the funny things they do. And not, try my best not to scream at them all the time and think of it as a lesson in patience from God, right? So it's exhausting, sis. I won't lie to you, but I don't think that God puts more on you than you can bear. And if you are honest with yourself and honest with what you need, and you've got a helpful partner that can help you get through it, then I think you can do anything.
As you said, even asking older women, what is your advice about kids? A lot of them said, have them all at once. Like have them back to back, because I think the one lady I talked to, she said her kids were like 7 years apart. I mean, she had the first two and then the other set were 7 years apart. And she's like, when she had the last one, she felt like she just didn't know what to do. Like she felt lost. She said she was crying in the hospital room. So that's not the only person. There's been like a number of people who, when I ask them like, so what's your advice for, a parent, or what wisdom can you bestow on me? And they're just like, have them all at once. And even with them saying that and going through the first process, I can completely understand because it's a lot. Like I almost even say that having a baby is like traumatic, because like your body goes through this like trauma that you have. Well, I don't know I don't know exactly for you. I mean, obviously you said that you had complications, but I see it as like a trauma, and bouncing back from that is like, I don't know. I feel like I'm still trying to adjust. And for me, my pregnancy is like is considered a high risk pregnancy because I have this blood clot. I had a blood clot in my lung in 2007. So I have like blood clotting tendencies. My biological mother died of like a stroke because of a blood clot. So the whole pregnancy is high risk. With my son, he ended up coming like, well, some people don't say it as premature, but he came earlier than I thought he was going to come. He came like 3 weeks early. And I was not prepared. I wasn't prepared at all. Like I didn't have because I was high risk, I had to go in, like twice a week because I had him in the States. So I had to go in twice a week for them to monitor my, I don't know exactly what, but I guess just to monitor him, to record his heartbeat, to see how it was going. And this was like my second pop, and that's what I was going in there for the week. And then they came back to me and were like, there's something a little bit different with the way his, like whatever his rates are. And they're like, we're going to send you to the hospital and they're going to do a more in-depth look, and if there's a possibility that they might induce you if it's not looking that great. And so I was like, what? Like, because they tried to just throw that last part in there. I was like, hold on. Because I remember telling my aunt, and she was just like, oh, it'll be fine. You know, we're just going to go, it's going to be fine. So when I went there, you know, they did the scan and everything. And both me and my aunt were like, so it looks okay, right? And the lady who's doing the scan, they don't ever want to really say, like, you know, what is happening. They're just like, oh, it looks okay. And then when the other nurse came back, she was like, okay, so we're going to induce you because whatever his heart rate, I don't know exactly what the deal was, but they basically said that they were going to take me into the hospital and or admit me, and now I'm going to be prepared for delivering a baby the next day. And I was like, what? So anyways, that kind of scared me a lot. That scared me a lot I feel like even throughout the pregnancy, I was very, I don't know. I feel like this is what I would ask you, but your second time around with pregnancy, for me in the beginning, I was very, very scared, or I was just always wanting to make sure that the baby was okay. I was like, you know, looking towards every, you know, on those apps, they have like the landmarks. Even when I had to go listen to the heartbeat, it's like, okay, I'm going to hear the heartbeat, you know? And I guess towards the end, I started getting more, I feel like, I don't know if it's just because of being new. I don't know if it's the same way when you have your second child, or if you're more like used to the whole fact of being pregnant. But I felt like it was just a lot of anxiety. And then knowing what I knew before is kind of like, you know.
Pregnancy is, as you said, traumatic. And my baby is going to be 1 in June, and my body is definitely not the same. Nobody tells you how much your body changes, what you go through.
Oh my gosh.
You know, we know that C-section moms have a hard time, and that they can, you know, still have scarring and issues later. But there's so many things that happen with natural birth as well that just change your body, right? And it's a lot. Like, it is a lot. And I know women have been doing this for years, but I also know that that's why so many women have been frustrated, so many women have been angry, why they hit their children, why they're so mad, because it's a lot that they're requiring of us. And I will tell you that I don't think as a parent that anxiety ever goes away. I was very conscious of every movement with my second baby, following the apps just like I did the first time, because it had been 2.5 years at that point. And so you want to make sure that everything's okay. And because I had all of the complications post-delivery with Cairo, Like with Cruz, I was terrified, and so I really had to spend a lot of time just praying. The pandemic hit. Like I delivered my son. We went into lockdown in March. I delivered my son in June. So I was going through pregnancy at the beginning of the pandemic when we knew nothing. When we, because I had been high risk. I had a TIA many years ago, which is a passing stroke, and so I was high risk since I'd had Cairo. So I had also delivered Cairo in the U.S. because I knew I was high risk between the passing stroke and the asthma, and so I needed to be where specialists were. The pandemic, the country was shut down. Like we couldn't get so I couldn't even get to the U.S. to deliver Cruz. So I didn't know what was going to happen. So like it was incredibly anxiety inducing. You get through it. You have the baby. The baby is here. The baby is healthy. All is well. I didn't have any of the post delivery complications. He's breastfeeding right away. Like it was all good. But the anxiety is still there. You're worried about crib death. You're worried, like it is so anxiety driven to be a parent. Because even now, you worry about them. And my mom had said that to me. I remember I couldn't sleep with Cairo at one point. Like, at around 7 months, you just can't sleep anymore. Your tummy's too big. You can't get comfortable. You're tired of sleeping on your side. And I was just telling her, like, I can't sleep. And she said, sis, you're really going to need to rest because you're not going to sleep again for the rest of your life. Like, for the rest of your life, you're going to be worried about these children, thinking about these children, wanting the best for them, hoping that they're well, hoping that nobody hurts them. So, yeah, I don't know if you can ever get rid of the anxiety, but it has to come down to faith and facts. What are your doctors saying? What do they think, right? Because we have to weigh what the medical community thinks, and that's not the last report, of course not. But I also think that God gives us very good doctors for a reason, right? And so what do they say? In my case, my doctor said, Star, this is a fluke. Like, this is what happened to you post-delivery. You happened to catch a random virus. Your body was extra susceptible because you just delivered this baby. It will not happen again. I can't guarantee anything, but I'm 99.9% sure you're going to be fine, right? And so I talked to multiple doctors. Like, it was a process for us to get the best medical opinions to make sure that as much as we could be, from a medical perspective, being safe about having a second child, we were. And then the rest of it is, okay, God, I'm trusting you. God, I'm believing you. God, I'm praying with you. I can just give this to you. And so I think it comes down to both faith and works, and how do you navigate that? And then just what's best for you and your family, right? And if you decide that it's a 7-year wait for you, then wait your 7 years. Like, I don't think that anyone can tell you what's best for you. I knew it had to work for me. Like, if I didn't have that baby by the time this girl turned 3, it was not gonna happen. I was topping out.
Yeah, I could, like I said, I'm still in the middle of debating whether or not to have more at this point in time, because it's just a lot. It's just a lot, and you go in between the fact of because the fact that it's a lot, that, as you said, just getting it over with now. But yeah, I'm really, whatever happens, I'm just trusting God along with it, that if a child comes, that was clearly his plan. Because I'm just trying to navigate, man. Even with everything else, like, I guess just with becoming a mom, like, and the things that I'm doing now, I don't even know what, like, my career, like, what my career really is at this point. If that makes any sense. I'm kind of like, I don't want to say lost. I'm just here doing what I feel like I'm supposed to do.
Then don't go against that. Intuition is important. So if you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do, you're good.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Kids are, I don't know. I don't want to say anything too, because you can't, whether you have kids or not, like, it doesn't discredit you as a person, but there's definitely a lot of growth that happens within having kids, or it's just a different ball game. That's all I can say.
It's a totally different ball game. And so I want you to give yourself grace, and I want to encourage your listeners to give themselves grace as well. Because that's what God gives us, and that's what we often give to other people. So we ought to give it to ourselves some more. And You are not alone. I think most mothers would confess to feeling that way. There's just so much about your life that's different. Your body is different. So you've been
Yeah.
carrying around a body for like what, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, 40 years. And then all of a sudden this thing comes out of it and it's a different body and you have to relearn it and it has to, work again in a new way. And you're figuring that out as you figure out how to keep your marriage on track for those who are married when they have their kids, right? And how do you
Yeah.
still show your spouse the same amount of love? And even as you're dealing with all that, you're dealing with the hormones associated with having had the baby, and it's causing you to question things. And so it's a lot, right? And then, oftentimes your life, because it changes so drastically with kids, you're not able to do, if you're fortunate enough, because some people have no choice, right? They have to go back to work. But in some instances where that's not the case, where you decide that you're going to take some time, it can feel like you're struggling, especially if you've been very career driven and you're ambitious and you've got plans and you had plans before these kids and it's not matching up, right? It all of this is natural and very normal. But I think, as hard as it may be, and I'm very ambitious, so I want to make it very clear that I never intended to just like have a bunch of kids and be a wife. That I never was never my plan, never my goal.
Yeah.
I always thought I'd be running the UN or doing something in Uganda or living in London or Paris. Like this whole, oh my God, kids, husband thing, not my goals. But it's what God had for me, and it's been an amazing blessing, the greatest blessing. But it's not turned off the part of me that is ambitious and that wants to thrive and that wants to do well in a career outside of the home. And so I just have come to the realization that this is the season, though, for these babies, and that I only get one season with them, and I only get this one opportunity for them to be 4 and 1, and to talk to me freely, and So I'm so prayerful always, like, God, help me to stay in the moment. Help me to embrace the journey. When I'm most frustrated, I start to thank God out loud. Like, God, I thank you for these babies. I thank you for this mess. I thank you that I get to clean this up. I thank you that they're in my space right now, right? Because, like, I have to put the frame of gratefulness on it, because there's going to come a point in a period when they're not here. And the house is clean because there's no one here to mess it up. And then what do you do in that moment and in those seasons, right? And so I trust God that he would not put a vision in my heart that he won't allow to come to pass, or that there's also nothing greater than creating a legacy with these children whose he's thought to be so important, that he brought them into this earth for such a time as this, who will carry on long after I go, and whose kids will carry on after them. And therefore, the most important thing I can do right now in this season is cater to them, right? And it doesn't diminish me in any way. It only adds to my value. So yeah, sis, just give yourself some grace. Like, you're not alone. It's a journey. We're all going through it daily. It's hard. It's a lot of work. And it's a work that's not credited with money or status. It's just expected. And nobody praises you for cleaning up poop or vomit or cooking, right? It's just supposed to happen. But sis, you're not alone. Just know that. Like, and for all the mothers who are watching this, you're not alone. And we're journeying together, and we're hopeful and prayerful that 20 years from now our kids will look back and laugh because they see these conversations, and that they would appreciate all that we've done to raise them.
Yeah, I think also, even with trusting God, is just like, I guess sometimes you just have to, like, I don't know, I don't want to say just be, but you have to, like, sometimes I feel like, for me, like, I feel like being in this, like, transitional space is just like, just being in the moment, as you said, like, just being here, like, this is where I'm at. I shouldn't have to feel like I'm, like, I need to be somewhere else, or I need to be either further, or maybe I'm behind, or like, or I need to slow down, or maybe this right here, I just need to be in this moment and allow whatever transitioning or whatever transition is happening to just happen. Because yeah, as you said, this time, I don't know, these times you just don't know. You don't know what's to come. And sometimes I think maybe even you can think that the grass is like greener on the other side. But I guess there's still advantages in just being here in this moment now. But it's a battle. So right now I'm no longer making a Alfredo. I'm no longer making an Alfredo. I'm just making I guess you could just say a pasta dish with chicken and mushrooms and butter, lemon butter, and pasta. Because the Alfredo sauce has not gone to plan, which is very devastating for me. Do you cook?
I do.
Do you like to cook?
No.
No.
But my food is so good. Last night I made, I did some roasted Brussels sprouts, like some crispy Brussels sprouts that were absolutely delicious. And I did salmon, which is definitely one of my favorite meats to cook. But I actually cook really well. Like, my mom was a great cook, and so she taught me everything. So I do everything, right? Lots of veggies, because this is a big vegetable house. And then I do, lamb and steak, and I got an air fryer, and I do, curries. And like, my sauce I still think I have the best sauce ever, with the exception of my mom, who may just have me by like a point. But yeah, no, I'm a great cook. Is it something that I enjoy? Absolutely not.
I love it. I haven't cooked. No. I've cooked lamb. I was thinking, when you say lamb, do you mean like, those, like how they have the lamb on those
the
short
fancy
stick
lamb
thing?
scallops? Yeah.
Yeah.
Lamb scallops.
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know how to do that. But like the lamb that be in the grocery store, that's just like cut up, I don't know, lamb shoulder, whatever.
Lamb shoulder chops.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty good in the kitchen, but I think that we all have things that we enjoy, things that are our gifts, that's not mine. Like, I do it because I have to do it, and I'm gonna make it taste good because I have to eat it, and I want you guys to enjoy it too. But I'm never gonna just be like, oh my gosh, I'm just so excited to get in the kitchen. So like, the way that you're doing this podcast would not be my thing, because this is not about that life.
I'm literally always on YouTube looking up different meal strategies, because Ravon is gluten-free, and so a lot of the things that I normally was used to eating, such as pasta, like, he just didn't eat anymore, and it was a little rough. Yeah. So I was always looking for new ways to incorporate or see how to put the things that I like, I guess, let him try it, because he's kind of just like, I don't know if it's because he's a guy or he's just like, I guess whatever, like, he didn't really care that he couldn't eat certain things. But I'm always on the hunt. And like the other day or yesterday, I made Caesar salad dressing, because I used to work at a restaurant. I used to be a server when I was in college. You went to college over here, or you went to college at UB?
I went to both places, actually. I did my associate at UB, and then I did my undergrad degree at the University of Miami.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I didn't know if you were in if you were in DC, like if you had studied there, but yeah, I worked at the restaurant Carrabba's, and it was an Italian restaurant. As a server in college, trying to make ends meet. And that restaurant, like, the food there was really, really, really good. They were, at that time, they're not as much anymore, but they were really big on having like fresh ingredients. And I could tell the difference between there and like, Olive Garden, even though we were compared to it as much. Have you ever eaten at Carrabba's?
No, I've eaten at Olive Garden though, but never Carrabba's. I know the name. And I did briefly study in DC. I was there for a semester. It was too cold for me. I went back to Miami.
I could completely understand that. I really kind of hated it while I was there. Well, actually, it's like I've grown a love for it now that I'm gone, because I was born in Virginia, or in the DMV area. But I didn't like it when I was there. But when I now that I'm gone, because I always wanted to go to New York for some reason, and I had it in my mind that like New York is where I'm meant to be. But then I went there and I was like, no, it's not. It's not where I'm meant to be. I don't like New York. New York was too cold for me. But yeah, I don't know what I said all of that for. But basically, I worked at a restaurant, and I've been trying to, like, when I moved back here, I was like, man, I can't eat any of the, like, I can't find anywhere that could even, I guess, get something remotely, like, memorable. And because all of their ingredients were, like, fresh ingredients, you had to, like, memorize, like, everything in the menu, because they made all of their food. Like, I mean, down to the sauces, down to the dressings, everything. Whereas regular, I guess some places you only know what they make. So because of that, I had an idea of how you make certain things or what the ingredients that were in it. I used to watch the cooks. I was friends with the cooks. And a couple of times they've taught me a couple of things. But yeah, so I'm always trying to recreate a Carrabba's dish. Italian food is like my favorite food, even though I've cooked a number of Asian dishes. I'm getting into Asian dishes now. Yeah. But
well, that pasta looks amazing. So, you know, if I definitely wish that this was not virtual, that I was in the kitchen with you so I could have some. But, you know, another time.
Another time, yeah. This dish is my cousin's dish. It has like Jamaican. I mean, why did I say Jamaican? It has Junkanoo.
Junkanoo.
To say. It has these little Junkanoo symbols. It's called cultureware. I told her, I was like, let me just use. I was like, I should use your dishes because, not that I get that much traction, but hey, I'll
that's awesome. Though. So she makes them herself.
Yeah, she does these designs. Yeah. She does the pottery, or it's called ceramics, sorry, okay. Gina.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so she has these different, she even has like, she has this one. I was going to make salad, but the timing, this one I thought was really cool. It's like a straw basket type of thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's called Cultureware by Gina Lorray. That's all I know. I think she's on IG and Facebook, but yeah, I like it. It's pretty cool. Let's see if I can dish this up good. Trying to figure it out. But I made the Caesar dressing yesterday, and that Caesar dressing was so good. And I was so excited. Trevon was like, I've never seen someone so excited about Caesar dressing.
When you make something and it tastes good, trust me. That looks absolutely delicious.
Okay. All right, Star. We've made it to the end.
We did.
We've made it through.
You've made it through. Congratulations on your first season.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. And all that you do. Okay, guys.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Oh, is there anything that you want to, I guess, if you want to say anything that you have coming up or anywhere that people can find you?
Sure. So I'm at Home of Stars on IG. My website is homeofstars.com. And of course, you can find me on Facebook. That's Anastarcia, Anastarcia. And I just love to, have you guys around, encourage you, and to let you know you're not alone. Like, we're all in this journey together. Nothing is perfect. No matter how shiny the Instagram feed is, that's just a really good filter. Life is still happening behind the filter, and it's not easy. But we've got each other, and when you've got faith and you've got a belief that, that there is so much more that God has for you, there's nothing that can stop you. And so just be encouraged, right? We're tired, we get exhausted, sometimes we shout, sometimes we cry, but we make it. And once we love these kids and they know that we love them, then it's all gonna be all good. So be encouraged and check me out at Home of Stars.
Thank you, Star. Well, guys, that is a wrap. So season 2 will probably be more so in the fall. But if you stay tuned to our Soul Food Movement IG and Facebook, then you will know when we're launching back again. I hope that you like it. If you do like it, support it, so that way we will be, we'll know if this is something that we should continue to do. But yeah, guys, have a good night, and we hope that you stay blessed.